I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who says, I didn't see it coming, but I didn't. God, I didn't. And that might be the part that hurts the most, not the betrayal itself, but how completely, utterly blind I was to it. Me, the woman who notices when someone at work swaps out their perfume, the woman who can sense when her friend is faking a smile, the woman who, for 10 years, could tell when her husband was just tired or silently stewing. And yet I missed this. The morning I found out, it was disgustingly normal. I got up early to make us coffee. It's the way I always do. Because he always said, your coffee tastes like love. Stupid line. I'd giggle every time he said it. I thought we had our own little world, like an inside joke wrapped in quiet routines. I never realized those routines were keeping me sedated, making me feel safe in something that had already started to rot. He was in the shower when his phone buzzed. Normally, I wouldn't even glance. We had trust, or at least I did. But this buzz-it didn't sound like a regular message. It was a different tone, a setting I didn't recognize. My hand moved before my mind did. That's the truth. I didn't go looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious. But something pulled me, like a gut instinct breaking through the fog of habit, and there it was. A text, bright and bold, sitting on his lock screen like a slap across my face. Last night was everything. I miss you already. I stared at it for so long. My coffee went cold in my hand. I read it again and again. My thumb hovered over his phone like it had grown teeth. I was shaking before I even unlocked it. And then I did something I thought I'd never do. I opened his messages. It wasn't just one woman. That was the second. Blow, it was two. Two different names. Two different conversations. Two different personas, like he'd tailored his lies to fit their lives. One was flirty and teasing. The other, romantic. Full of soulmate talk. Soulmate. The word we used on our wedding day. The word he whispered to me when I miscarried, and I thought our world was ending. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my lungs had been yanked out of my chest. My hands went numb. I could hear the water running in the bathroom, the familiar sound of him humming off key. He was in there washing the perfume and guilt off his body like nothing had happened. Like he wasn't murdering the womanhood. Given him her youth, her loyalty, her everything. I didn't confront him right then. I put his phone back. I smiled. I gave him his coffee. I listened to him talk about work, about his stupid client who always forgets Zoom passwords. I laughed. At the right parts, I kissed him goodbye, and then I sat on our couch in the silence. The knife of betrayal lodged in my ribs, and I didn't move for 2 hours. You see, I knew I couldn't react like a woman on TV. I wasn't going to scream or throw things. No dramatic crying or smashing plates. No, that would give him power. That would make him feel like the center of my destruction. Instead, I made a decision. I was going to ruin his life, piece by piece. But first I had to plan, because if there's one thing I've always been good at, it's organizing chaos. I kept our house running, our schedules aligned, our finances in order. He never noticed the invisible labor I put in, the dozens of ways I made his life easier every day. He took it for granted. Now, I would use that same skill to orchestrate his downfall. I started with money. He didn't know I had a separate savings account. It was small, just a few thousand. But it was enough. Every birthday gift from my parents, every freelance project. I did on the side every refund he never asked about. I tucked it away little by little, just in case. I never imagined this would be the just in case, but it was. I used that money to get a burner phone. I needed to move in silence.
I created
a new email, a new cloud account, somewhere I could store screenshots of everything. Every text, every photo, every breadcrumb of deceit. I wanted evidence not just for revenge, but for me, to remind myself I wasn't crazy, that I didn't imagine it. Because in a marriage, sometimes gaslighting isn't even intentional. In the way your partner forgets your pain, dismisses your worries, makes you feel needy for wanting reassurance. And suddenly, you're doubting what your eyes see and what your heart knows. Not anymore. I also started therapy. Secretly, I told him I was joining a yoga class after work. He thought it was cute that I was trying something new. I smiled. Said, "Thanks, babe." And then I went and spilled every raw, humiliating detail to a stranger who didn't try to fix it. Just listened. And that listening started to rebuild me. But even as I healed, I kept plotting. He worked late on Thursdays. That's when he saw her. One of them, anyway. I tracked his location. GPS doesn't lie. He had no idea that the very device he used to cheat was also betraying him. I followed him once, parked 2 blocks away, watched him meet her outside a restaurant. He touched her back, just like he used to touch mine. He kissed her, soft, like he cared, and I wanted to scream. Not from pain, from fury, because I'd given him everything, and he'd thrown it away for ... Novelty? Ego? Weakness? I didn't know. I didn't care. What mattered was, he thought he had options. He thought he could get away with it. He didn't know I was rewriting the rules. I started laying traps. Little things. I started logging into our shared Amazon account and ordering random items, men's cologne I knew he didn't wear, lingerie in a size that wasn't mine, books in a language neither of us spoke, just to see if he'd notice, just to see if he'd ask. He didn't, which told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't just a liar. He was lazy about it, comfortable, entitled. He thought I'd never leave. Thought I needed him. That was his first mistake. Next, I reached out to her, not with rage, not with insults, with facts. I messaged the woman I knew was more serious, the soulmate one. I told her everything, sent her screenshots, said nothing cruel, just this is who he really is. Do what you want with the truth. She blocked me, but I know she'll read it, because 2 days later his phone was buzzing all night. The next morning he was pale, quiet, distracted. He didn't mention her, just said work's been stressful. I almost laughed in his face, but I didn't, because I wasn't done. I had a bigger target in mind. His job. He worked in finance. A cushy firm with strict rules about conduct. I knew things, little violations. The time he bragged about insider tips, the way he manipulated certain client reports, stuff I used to ignore because I thought everyone cuts corners. Now, those little things became weapons. I compiled a dossier. Dates, names, patterns. I didn't send it yet. I was waiting for the right moment. Timing is everything in war. You don't strike when they're ready. You strike when they think they've won. Meanwhile, at home, I played the role perfectly. I wore lipstick again, cooked his favorite meals, giggled at his dumb jokes. I watched him start to relax, to believe he was safe, that I was happy again, that whatever had been off had passed. And at night, I stared at the ceiling beside him, my heart a hurricane, and whispered to myself, "You don't get to walk away clean." He didn't know who I had become. Soon he would. It's funny how easy it is to fake a marriage once you've been in one long enough. There's a rhythm, a choreography. You know when to laugh, when to sigh, when to make just enough eye contact to seem in love. I became a master at it. Every performance gave me more time, more space, more access to every corner of the life we'd built together, the life. I was now slowly turning into rubble. The night I made him his favorite lasagna, he leaned over, kissed my forehead, and said, "You've been amazing lately." Amazing. I wanted to vomit, not because he was lying, but because he believed it. He looked at me with those familiar eyes, soft and loving, the same way he used to look when we first fell in love. And I realized something that chilled me, he thought. He still loved me. That was the second betrayal, worse in a way. He was cheating, but he still thought I was his. Still thought I'd always be there, waiting, forgiving, rebuilding his ego. That he could live this double life and not lose either part of it. But he had already lost me, just didn't know it yet. While he slept next to me, I started calling lawyers quietly, carefully. I didn't want a divorce yet. I wanted information. Options. I wanted to know what I'd be entitled to, what was fair, what was hidden. And most of all, I wanted to know how to leave in a way that would hurt the most. Turns out, our prenup had a clause he forgot about. Infidelity nullifies it. That One little sentence buried on page 17 of a document we signed over wine and laughter 8 years ago became my sword. Without the prenup, I could go after everything. The house, its retirement, its beloved Tesla. All of it. But I wasn't done planning. No, not yet. I wanted to burn more than just his wallet. I wanted to shatter the image he'd built, the golden boy with the loving wife and the successful career and the white picket reputation. And to do that, I needed to get closer to the people who helped prop him up. His friends, his coworkers. So I started the slow poison. I dropped hints, casual, soft little seeds of doubt. He's been so distant lately. I don't know if we're on the same page anymore. I feel like he's hiding something. Said it all with a sad smile, like a woman trying to hold on, and they listened. Because everyone loves a wounded wife, especially when she's graceful about it. His sister started checking in on me more. His best friend invited me to coffee and said, "You seem off. Are you okay?" And I just smiled, said, "Marriage is hard, right?" And looked away like I couldn't bear to say more. I didn't have to accuse him. I just had to plant the doubt. And while they were busy watching me, he was still out cheating. He didn't even try to hide it better. He was just as sloppy, just as arrogant. He'd sneak in late and say he stayed back to prep the quarterly report. He'd shower twice in a day, use cologne I didn't buy, leave his phone on silent whenever he was home. I knew his patterns better than he did. One night I found a hotel keycard in his coat pocket. He hadn't even bothered to throw it away. I stared at it, flipped it over in my hand, and smiled like I'd found a golden ticket, because now I had what I needed for. The final act, I decided it would be our anniversary. The perfect day, too. And the performance, I planned everything down to the second. I made dinner reservations at the restaurant where we'd gotten engaged. I bought a new dress, black, sleek, perfect for both a celebration and a funeral. I even wrote him a card filled with the sweetest lies I could think of. "You've always been my home. I can't wait for our next chapter." He was giddy that night. Giddy? He kissed me in the Uber like we were 25 again, said I looked stunning, held my hand across the table. I let him toast to 10 amazing years. I let him order the wine we had on our honeymoon. I let him lean in and whisper, "I've been thinking maybe we should start trying again." For a baby, that one almost broke me. Not because I wanted. A baby I used to. Desperately. Until the miscarriage. After that, I didn't know if I could ever survive the hope again. But what shattered me in that moment was how easily he could say that, bring a life into the conversation when he was still tangled in someone else's sheets. He didn't just cheat on me. Played with the idea of a future while actively destroying it. So I looked at him, tilted my head like I was touched, and said, "I have something for you too." I slid the envelope across the table. It was thick. He raised an eyebrow and smiled, expecting something sweet. Maybe boudoir photos. Love letter. He opened it. He flipped through the pages slowly. First confusion, then tension, then pale silence. Screenshots, photos. Of him and her hotel receipts, GPS logs, the message to the woman he called his soulmate, saying he dreamed of running away together. And on the final page, my lawyer's business card. He looked up at me like a drowning man. "What is this?" "Your anniversary gift," I said calmly. "You've got about 24 hours before she gets a copy too. Maybe your boss, depending on how honest you feel like being." He opened his mouth to speak and I held up a hand. Don't lie. Don't apologize. Don't even try to explain. You had a million chances to be decent. You used every single one to fuck someone else. He was speechless. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power. I stood up, dropped a $100 bill on the table, and said, "Enjoy the wine. It's the last good thing you'll taste for a while." Didn't cry. I didn't look back. The next day, everything started to fall apart. First, I told his family. With grace, with facts. I said, "I thought you should hear it from me, not a stranger." His mother cried. His sister said, "Oh my God." His father, stoic proud, just said, "We raised him better than this." Then I told her, soulmate. I sent her the full file. It's time she responded, "Thank you, I had no idea. I'm done." I believed her, and finally, I sent a copy of the evidence, only the professional bits, to HR at his company. I never heard back. But a week later, he told me he'd been suspended pending investigation. Translation: he was going down. He moved out, tail between his legs. Said he needed space to think. I gave him silence instead. He begged. He cried. He said he was broken. That he didn't know why he did it. That he felt empty inside. And that I was the only good thing he'd ever had. Too late, I wasn't his good thing anymore. I was the reckoning, and still on some nights I'd wake up and reach for him, out of habit. Out of that stupid, deep muscle memory of love. And when I didn't find him there, I'd pull my hand back like it had touched fire. Because even after everything, part of me still ached. Not for him, but for the version of me who used to believe in him. I missed her. She was soft, hopeful, trusting. She believed in forever. She danced barefoot in the kitchen. She kissed him with her eyes closed. She would have forgiven anything if he'd just told the truth. But she's gone now, and what's left? Me sharper, wiser, not ruined, reborn. People like to talk about closure like it's a door you shut. Like there's a clean ending, a final bow, a last chapter where everything clicks into place and you walk away whole. But that's a lie. Closure isn't a door. It's a battlefield. After the war, quiet, smoky, full of blood, you're too numb to notice. After I left him, after I dropped the evidence like a bomb and walked away from the wreckage, there was silence. Not peace. Just silence. He stopped calling for a while, to be on advice from his lawyer. Or maybe he was hoping that giving me space would soften the blow, that I'd miss him enough to undo the fire I'd started. He was wrong. Every day without him was like coming up for air after years of drowning with a smile. I finally had room to think, to feel. And oh, the feelings were ugly. Anger, yes, that came first. Relentless, like acid under my skin. It would hit me in the middle of the grocery store, in traffic, in the shower, memories of him laughing with me, holding me, calling me beautiful. Each one turned to poison in my chest. I wanted to scream at the sky sometimes. WHY. Some desperate wife in a melodrama, but the world didn't owe me answers. Then came the grief. The stupid, slow, humiliating grief. Because no matter how strong you are, no matter how right your revenge feels, you're still mourning something. A future. A version of yourself. A fantasy that you fed and watered and believed in for so long. It grew roots in your soul, and ripping that out hurts like hell. I started sleeping on the couch, even though the bed was mine now. Our bed felt too big, too haunted. I couldn't change the sheets without seeing her there, not her body, just the idea of her. Of him, tangled with someone else while I waited at home, thinking he was tired from work. Sometimes, found myself scrolling through old photos, vacations, anniversaries, selfies we took on lazy Sundays. We looked so happy, so real, and I wondered, was he lying the whole time? Was any of it real? But the truth, that's the cruel part. Some of it was real. He did love me. He did care. And that's what makes betrayal so brutal. It isn't always black and white. Sometimes the person who destroyed you still kissed you like they meant it, still held your hand during the worst moments of your life, still brought you flowers on your birthday because they knew you hated lilies. The duality of that, the love and the betrayal, existing in the same body is enough to make you question your sanity. But I didn't break. I bent. Yes, God, I bent so far, I thought. I'd snap. But I didn't. I started to heal in strange, quiet ways. I went to the farmer's market alone for the first time in years, bought the bread he hated and ate it in the car, still warm. I painted my toenails black just because. I rearranged the kitchen and moved all his coffee mugs to the back of the cupboard. I opened the windows at night and played sad music with no shame, and slowly, the silence began to feel less like absence and more like peace. Until he came back, not physically, emotionally, digitally. Through the screen, it started with a long email. Subject line: I know I don't deserve this. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Because even though I didn't want him back, I wanted to know how he was spinning the narrative now. I wanted to see if he was still lying to himself. To me, the email was ... long, rambling, full of half-confessions. In self-pity, he said he was lost. That the affair was a symptom, not the cause. That he had been struggling for years to feel like enough. And then he wrote the part that stayed with me. For better or worse, I never stopped loving you. I just stopped being worthy of you. And I almost felt sorry for him, but then I remembered the hotel key.
The perfume on his shirt.
The second woman I hadn't even confronted him about because one betrayal was already too much to digest. So I didn't reply. He sent more messages after that. Small ones. A song link. A photo of our dog from when she was a puppy. A memory from our honeymoon. Remember this night? I'd read them, then archived them. Like artifacts from a time I barely recognized anymore. My therapist said I didn't owe him anything, not even anger. You've done your part, she said. He made his choices. Now make yours. Die. I got the divorce. Clean. Brutal. Swift, he tried to negotiate. Tried to reason with me. Said I was destroying everything. I just looked at him, this man who once meant everything to me, and said, "You already did that. I'm just signing the paperwork." When the final papers arrived, I didn't cry. I poured a glass of wine. I played a breakup playlist. It danced in my living room, barefoot and wild and ridiculous, and I laughed until I fell onto the couch, breathless, because I was free. Not healed, not yet, but free. The weeks after that were strange, like stepping into sunlight after years underground. Things felt too bright, too quiet. I was still figuring out who I was without him. What parts of me were real, and which parts had only existed in service of being a good wife. I started writing again. Just journals at first. Pages and pages of messy, angry, raw thoughts. I let myself be ugly in them, petty, vindictive. I let it all out. And somehow, through all the poison, I found pieces of myself again. I went out with friends I hadn't seen in ages. Took a short trip alone, booked a photography class, said yes to invitations I used to decline because we had plans. There was no we anymore, only me, and one night at a mutual friend's party, I saw him again. He looked older, smaller, like someone had turned down the volume on his entire personality. He saw me across the room and froze. I could feel his guilt from 20 feet away. He didn't approach me. I didn't approach him. But before I left, I walked past him and said, "I hope she was worth it." He didn't reply. His mouth just opened slightly, like he wanted to but couldn't, or wouldn't. I didn't care. I went home that night and stood in front of the mirror, looking at the woman staring back at me. She had lines on her face now, shadows under her eyes. But her spine was straighter, her eyes clearer. Her heart still bruised but no longer bleeding, and I whispered to myself, "You did it. You survived. This should have been the end." But here's the truth. No one tells you. Revenge doesn't make you whole. It satisfies a part of you, yes. It's the part that wants justice. The part that wants them to feel even a fraction of your pain, or it doesn't fill the void they left. I ruined his life. At least I shattered the one he built on my trust. And some nights I still ask myself, was that enough? Did I really win, or did we both lose? Because here's the thing. I never saw coming not the cheating, not the lies, not the collapse of everything I thought was real. It was how much of myself I'd given away over the years, little pieces to keep us alive. And now I had to gather them back, one scar at a time. It's strange, the way pain fades. Not all at once, not cleanly. It fades in layers, like peeling old wallpaper. You think it's gone, and then you find another strip still clinging to the corners of your heart. Some mornings I'd wake up, feeling brand new, like I'd finally left it all behind. Other mornings I'd see a couple holding hands on the sidewalk and feel the grief bloom all over again, sharp and familiar. But the difference now, I let myself feel it. I didn't run. From it, I didn't numb it. Didn't pretend, because pretending is what got me here. Pretending I was happy. Pretending he was faithful. Pretending that loving someone enough would keep them loyal. The truth is, love isn't always enough. I wish someone had told me that when I was younger. I wish someone had looked me in the eye and said, you can give your whole soul to someone, and they can still spit it back in pieces. Maybe I wouldn't have spent so long trying to fix what I didn't break, but maybe. I had to learn it the hard way. The emails from him finally stopped. After the party, after I said those 6 words, I hope she was worth it. I think something clicked. Maybe he finally saw the version of me that no longer needed his regret. Maybe he realized that his access to me was permanently revoked. I'd built a wall he couldn't climb, and that silence was the sound of him accepting it. Good, because I wasn't wasting another second wondering about his guilt, or his healing, or his pain. He was no longer the main character in my story. I was, and I was done playing the martyr, you know? It took me nearly 6 months to laugh without feeling guilty. Isn't that wild? As if joy was some kind of betrayal? I'd be with friends, or watching a movie, or walking through a park. And I'd really laugh in, then this shadow would fall over me. A voice whispering, how dare you be okay already? But the better voice, the louder voice, the one I'd worked so hard to grow would answer, how dare you not be? So I kept laughing. I said yes to things I used to fear. I joined a book club and surprised myself by talking more than I listened. I flirted with a stranger in a coffee shop. Even though my hands were shaking, I wore red lipstick to a brunch just because I used to think it made my lips too loud. I even booked a solo trip to Portugal. It's just me, my camera, a journal, and a vow. No men, no drama, no pretending. That trip changed me. There was a morning early quiet ocean breeze in my hair, where I sat on a rocky cliff, watching the sun rise over a town I couldn't pronounce. And for the first time since everything imploded, I didn't think about him. Not once. I just sat there, hand wrapped around a warm cup of espresso, and thought, I like this version of me. Not because she was perfect, but because she was real, scarred, yes, still healing, still learning to trust again. But real, when I came back, I moved out of the house. The house I fought so hard to keep during the divorce, thinking it was symbolic, thinking I needed to win it. But once I came home from Portugal, I walked into the living room and realized it wasn't mine anymore. It was full of echoes and shadows and versions of myself I'd outgrown. So I sold it, used the money too. Buy a smaller place, quieter, warmer, closer to the city. It had a tiny balcony with vines already growing up the railing. The first night I slept there, I lit a candle and whispered, start over. And I meant it. I wish I could tell you that after that, everything was perfect. That I met someone new, someone who healed me. That love found me again and proved itself kinder this time. But that's not how this story ends, because this isn't a love story, it's a becoming story. I did go on dates. Some were awkward, some were fun. One ended with a kiss that didn't feel like betrayal's just possibility. But mostly, I dated myself. I asked myself questions I'd been avoiding for years. What do you want? Who are you without someone else to orbit? The answers surprised me. I want peace and poetry, plants on my WINDO. I want to dance barefoot in the kitchen again, but for me this time. Not to impress, not to prove. I'm still desirable, just because music moves me. I want to write stories. Real ones. Ugly ones. Because I have so many inside me, and for too long. I silence them, and I want to forgive. Not him, me. Forgive myself for staying so long. For believing the lies. For shrinking to fit his comfort. For mistaking manipulation for effort. For confusing routine with love, because now I know better. Now I know that love without honesty is a cage. That peace built on silence is just tension in disguise. That a man who only values you when you're convenient will never fight for you when you're in pain. And most importantly, I know this. I am not ruined. I am reborn. There's a difference between being broken and being open. He broke me. Through that breaking, I opened. And I let the light in. Sometimes I think about the version of myself I used to be, so hopeful, so giving, So eager to love, and I ache for her. But I also thank her, because she brought me here. Through every heartbreak, every betrayal, every tear-stained pillow, she carried me forward. She made this woman possible. So if you ask me, do you regret it? Do you regret ruining his life? Here's my answer: no, because I didn't ruin his life. I revealed it. I held up a mirror and let him see himself clearly for once.
S.
I stepped out of his shadow and into my own power.
X.
I walked away not just from him, but from every version of myself that begged to be chosen. I choose me now. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real revenge.